In today's video, we finish up the first verse of the Greek of Genesis chapter 3. In the prior video, we looked at the first half of the verse where the ophis, the serpent, shows up as the craftiest of all the animals that God had made. We saw that in Revelation 20, the Apostle John connects that to the Satan or the diabolos, and now we're going to find out what he does here in his initial foray with the woman in the garden. Kai epen ha-ophis te gunaiki. Ti hati epen ha-theos, u me phagete apopantos zulu, to into paradiso. Ends with a question mark there. Well, one of the reasons why the serpent is understood to be the wisest or the craftiest of the animals is that he can Lego, obviously showing a kind of supernaturalism here. As we mentioned last time, Ophis here is the serpent, and he's in the garden. So he speaks te gunaiki. This, of course, is the dative singular feminine from gune, and the gune was introduced in Genesis 2:22 through 24. It's referring to the woman that God has created, and so now we see the serpent is speaking to her. Ti hati is the beginning of his direct quotation, and that's pretty interesting Greek rendering. The underlying Hebrew is af ki, and in Hebrew it's something like, did God surely, or like, is it true that? And the ti hati is basically, this is a y, and then a plus a that. So it's a little bit tricky, but you could say something like, why is it that? The serpent is sowing seeds of confusion in the mind of the woman. We have another apen here, and it's God who is speaking. And so the serpent claims to have access to what God has said previously to Adam, and so he's throwing doubt on that. Did he really say, me, surely not? Phagete here. This is the second plural. You see the te ending. It's a spelling change, so it's an aorist. It's from estheo. It's active here, and then with the lengthening of the connecting vowel, it's subjunctive, and that basically matches up with the me. You're going to typically see a subjunctive in that kind of construction. Estheo means to eat. So you may surely not eat, and what may you not eat from? Apopantos, from all. And then Zulu here, this is tree. We've seen that previously in 1:11 and other verses, these trees that are made in the garden. So he says, you may not, he's saying God said that you may not eat from any or all the trees, and then to into that are in the paradiso. The paradisos we saw in Genesis 2:8. This is the garden. Of course, in later tradition, it gets translated often as paradise. And so the serpent is basically saying, for what reason did God tell you may not eat from any, that's going to be really important, any tree or all the trees that are in the garden? The question is, has he quoted God correctly? This is referring back to Genesis 2:16 and 17. And if you go back to that scene, apopantos Zulu, so notice the pantos Zulu, that's part of Satan's quotation. This is God speaking to Adam, to into paradiso. So far, so good. You may eat. Notice the phago form here. You may eat as food. So God actually does tell Adam, from all the trees that are in the garden, you actually may eat from them, but from the tree to know, gnoskane here, kalan kai paneron, good and evil, you may not eat. Phageste there. Notice again the use of the sort of stem change of estheo. So Satan here, as is well known, this is true in Hebrew as well, he is in a sense quoting from the prior commandment of God, but he's combined two of the statements and gotten it wrong. Of course, he's doing that because he's trying to again, confuse and deceive the woman, as we'll see as Genesis 3 develops. God did actually say you can eat from all the trees, but there is one exception, a specific tree, a specific zulon, specifically the one to know good and evil. That's the carve-out. Satan has cast doubt upon that, saying, well, God has basically denied you all the trees. And he's trying to say, look, it's not a big, why is God doing that? That's unfair. And of course, the woman is going to give into that in the subsequent verses. So it's quite interesting that even in the Greek level, the translators are picking up on the fact that Satan has partly quoted God correctly and partly misquoted him by combining the two stipulations into one and positioning it as a blanket prohibition on eating of any of the trees, pantos here, when that in fact was not true originally in the command in chapter 2.